Hello everyone, myself Deepak Gupta logging to take up this topic of capital gains, and today we will take up the point class 3 of the capital gains chapter, and we will be covering certain special exemptions. Hello everyone, myself Deepak Gupta logging. We will be taking up certain special exemptions which are available against any long-term capital gain accruing. So, as we all know, that long term capital gain being a special income, and this special income which is taxed at a special rate of 20%, though it is subjected to the exemption limit. So, in spite of being an special income, and unlike other special income such as income from lottery, etc., which are not subjected to the minimum exemption limit, if it is applicable, but long-term capital gain, in spite of being a special income, we can say it is special in three cases because it is in spite of being special subjected to the exemption limit benefits. It will be taxed at a special rate of 20% and not the normal slab rates, and there will not be any disallowance of, or there should say there should not be any allowance for deduction under chapter 6A. The normal deductions such as ATC, ATD, etc., which are applicable to an individual assessee primarily, will not be applicable to long-term capital gain, be it being a special income. And therefore, such long-term capital gains are provided various exemptions. So they are covered under various sections, but in this class 3, we will try to cover the most prevalent one, that is section 54, and that is section 54 EC. So primarily speaking, section 54 will be against any long-term capital gain which has arisen from the transfer of a residential house property, and this section 54 EC will be against long-term capital gain which has arisen from the transfer of any building or land. Now this is an amendment from the year 19 onwards. The earlier case, section 54 EC were available against all long-term capital gains, but now after this amendment, section 54 EC is available only against the transfer of building and land. So being section 54 being the most prevalent, जो सबसे ज़्यादा prevalent है, लगभग हर आदमी जो मकान बेच रहा है वो सेक्शन 54 को यूज़ कर रहा है, तो हम पहले इसको डिस्कस करते हैं. तो सेक्शन 54 का बेसिक लॉजिक क्या है कि आप और हम जितने भी इंडिविजुअल्स हैं या एचयूएफ्स हैं, हम लोगों के पास एक बेसिक इंडिया में सोच है दैट वी शुड हैव अ हाउस, आवर पर्सनल हाउस, पर्सनल होम, that is the residential house. And even if we have the house, we always have this tendency to look for a bigger house. Primarily it is looking for a bigger house, or it could be a better house, or due to certain location pressures. So we are not concerned about the objective of the assessee, why he is changing. But if a person holding or owning a residential house property transfers such property, and on this transfer, if there are any long-term capital gain, it means the property to be transferred must be long-term property, and from the new regime onwards, that is the minimum ownership must have been more than 2 years. So if you sell a residential house property owned by you for more than 2 years and there is any resulting long-term capital gain, and it could have been taxed at the rate 20%, and if you want to save such a tax, then this long-term capital gain should be reinvested in the purchase of another long-term residential house property. It means the house which was sold must have been owned by you for a minimum of 2 years, and the house which you are going to purchase must be owned by you for a minimum of 2 years to make it long term. It means if the house purchased is sold before 2 years, then the exemption will not be applicable. But the some will say that how it is possible that should we claim the exemption after 2 years? The act says no. You can always purchase the house and look for the exemption under section 54, and we presume that you will hold the house for 2 years. That is why you have claimed such exemption under section 54. But if somehow that house purchased for which the exemption has been claimed is sold before the 2 years, then the exemption can get withdrawn and that will be taxed as it was to be. So, what it says that if I take the date that if a person has purchased a house, say for rupees 5 lakhs on 6th September 2014, and after 3 years, that is in the year 2017 2018, he incurred rupees 2 lakhs on its improvement, and when the house was purchased 1% brokerage was given, and now in the current financial year, that is 2022 2023, but because the previous year is just starting, so we are always focusing not the previous year 2023 but the assessment year 22-23, that is the previous year 21-22. So let's presume that the house has been sold on 2nd March 2022, and this will relate to the period as mentioned, and the house sold was rupees say 50 lakhs, and the house was sold for rupees 50 lakhs, and again 1% brokerage was given, because ideally brokerage is given by both the buyers as well as the sellers, and this house was sold primarily to purchase a new house. So some people can do that, they will purchase the new house after selling the old house, or some people will buy the new house, shift to that house, and then they will sell. What I'm saying that they will purchase the new house after the old house has been sold, or they will buy the new house before the old house has been sold. So the new house could have been purchased after this effective date of 2nd March 22. In both the cases, the exemption under section 54 can be applicable. So exemption under section 54 is applicable, yeah, is available, but it is subject to various conditions. But it is subjected to various conditions. So we have to discuss those conditions. So before I move on to those conditions, I will first calculate the long-term capital gain here, so that we are able to complete the concept with the figure or with the available figures. So in this case, the sale value, that is the sale consideration, and you can always discuss or you can always see the details in the of the last session, where you will be knowing how we will calculate this long-term capital gain here. So this will constitute the sale consideration. Out of this, 1% brokerage of 50,000 will be deducted, and this figure of 49,50,000 will be known as the net sale consideration. And out of this net sale consideration, we will deduct the indexed cost of acquisition. So in this case, the cost of acquisition will be 5,05,000, that is 5 lakh of the purchase value and 1% of the brokerage, and this will be indexed by multiplying it with the index rate of the previous year 21-22, that is 3117, and divided by the previous year 2014-15 index rate. We will just check it from the table and write it here, and this figure will be deducted from here. Then we will deduct the cost of improvement, and not just the cost of improvement of 2 lakhs, but we will also index it on the similar manner by multiplying it with the index rate of the previous year 21-22 and divided with the index rate of the previous year 17-18. So we will just check the figures from the table, and I can share with you the table which is available in my notes, that for the year 14-15 the index rate is 240, and for the 17-18 it is 272. It is 272. So is in this case it is coming out to be 240, and in this case it is coming out to be 272. So we will just do the calculations. So 5,05,000 multiplied by 317 divided by 240, and that figures comes out to be 667020, and this constitutes the indexed cost of acquisition. Similarly, if we multiply 2 lakhs by 317 and divided by 272, then the figure comes out to be 233,088, and that constitutes the indexed cost of improvement. And if we deduct these two costs from our net sale consideration, that is 4950 में से माइनस किया 667020 and 233,088, so the figure is coming out to be 4049892, or if rounded off to the multiple of 10, then it comes out to be, so this is net long-term capital gain rounding off to the multiples of 10. So what the summary of this whole discussion is, that a house which was purchased for 5 lakhs plus 5,000 commission in the previous year 14-15, and an amount of rupees 2 lakhs was spent on the improvement in the previous year 17-18, was sold in the previous year 21-22 for a net sale consideration of 49,50,000 and giving a effective long-term capital gain of 4049892. And normally speaking, it can be taxed at the rate 20%. So effectively, this will be a tax of around 8,10,000. So either the assessee should be willing to pay this huge amount of tax along with the applicable surcharges and the cess, or they can use, so either they can go for this tax or they can opt for exemption under section 54, where they can purchase a new house. So the question now resolves on the conditions. So first of all, after the latest amendments, if I again go to my date of transfer, and the date of transfer was 2nd March 2022 pertaining to the previous year 21-22. So either the new house can be purchased in the next 2 years. So आप नया घर खरीद लें अगले 2 साल तक from the date of transfer. So this date in applicable case will be till 2024 1st March. So you can either purchase a new house till 1st March 2024 to claim exemption under section 54, or if you want to construct it and the construction may take more time, so you can construct the house till next 3 years. So there will be a time of 3 years from the construction, and that will correspond till 1st March 2025. So whatever amount is spent on the construction of the house in the next 3 years will be eligible for exemption under section 54. And so these two cases correspond, where the new house is purchased after the old house has been transferred. But as I said earlier, that we can also look for the house if it has been purchased before the old house was sold, and therefore if the house was purchased within last 1 year. So this date will correspond to 3rd March 2021. This is not 2, this is 3 March, because third का year 2 पे complete हुआ, 2 का 1 पे complete हुआ. So if the house has been purchased in the last 1 year also, so the house which has already been purchased, you must already be knowing its cost, and then that cost can be used for exemption purposes. So if these three dates are satisfied, subjected to that, this exemption is applicable only for purchase of one residential house property. Only for the purchase of one residential house property. ठीक है? Only for the purchase of one residential house property. So, in earlier cases before the amendments, you could have purchased as many properties as you wanted. एक दो तीन जितने मर्जी मकान खरीद लो, बट अब इस नए अमेंडमेंट के बाद अब आप सिर्फ एक सिंगल प्रॉपर्टी, आप सिर्फ एक सिंगल प्रॉपर्टी जो है वो ही खरीद सकते हो. ठीक है, तो एक सिंगल प्रॉपर्टी ही खरीद सकते हो. तो अगर आपने दो प्रॉपर्टी खरीदी तो जो प्रॉपर्टी आपकी चॉइस है, जो टैक्स बेनिफिट के हिसाब से ज़्यादा वाली प्रॉपर्टी होनी चाहिए. तो अगर आपने 2 3 4 प्रॉपर्टीज खरीदी हैं तो सिर्फ एक प्रॉपर्टी जिसकी कॉस्ट ज़्यादा हो, उसका बेनिफिट आप सेक्शन 54 में क्लेम कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, तो जितनी भी वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रॉपर्टी है, तो जो आपके टैक्सेबल लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स हैं, उसमें से एग्जेम्पशन अंडर सेक्शन 54 will be eligible against the purchase price of new one residential house property acquired. तो जितने आपने की प्रॉपर्टी खरीदी वो पूरी की पूरी परचेज प्राइस यहाँ से माइनस हो जाएगी, और जो बचेगा that will be taxable long term capital gain and not this one. और ये भी if any, that is the exemption will be limited to the long term capital gains available. तो जितने लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स हैं एग्जाम्पशन उस पर लिमिटेड है. मींस अगर ये फिगर 20 लाख रुपए की है एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे, और आपकी परचेज 15 लाख रुपए की है, तो टैक्सेबिलिटी 5 लाख पर होगी. या फिर अगर ये लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन 20 लाख रुपए हैं और आपकी प्रॉपर्टी 25 लाख रुपए की है, तो ये फिगर निल हो जाएगी, बिकॉज दिस विल बी सब्जेक्टेड टू मैक्सिमम लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन ऑफ 20 lakhs, and whichever is lower. ठीक है, so if you see here now that if the value purchased is less than the long term capital gain, then you will have to pay tax only on the balance long term capital gain. But what important thing is that sometimes, or in I should say most of the cases, normally the house is purchased before or after. So normally we can say that in normal practice the house is purchased after the transfer, because जब आप मकान बेचोगे, जब आपके पास पैसा आएगा, तभी उस पैसे से आप नया मकान खरीद रहे हो. एक नॉर्मल इंडियन ह्यूमन बीइंग इस तरह सोचता है, पुराना मकान बेचो, पैसा आएगा, नया मकान खरीद लेंगे. और कई बार क्या होता है कि नया मकान आप खरीद नहीं पाते, या खरीद तो पाओगे लेकिन क्योंकि आपने इनकम टैक्स की जो रिटर्न फाइल करनी है, द इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न इज टू बी फाइल्ड अराउंड अ डेट which is normally 31st July of the assessment year, and in this case it will be 31st July 2022, which is the date of filing return under section 139 subsection 1. So what will happen that you have still the time to purchase the property till 31st March 2024, but you have to file the return of income to 31st July, and you have only 3-4 months, and it is possible that you may not be able to purchase the house in that 4 months period, but you will do within this available framework. So there are two contradicting things, that you are ready to buy the house as per the allowed limits of the Income Tax Act, but when you file the return of income, then you don't have the property papers to claim, or you don't have the amount to claim. So here we have been given a in between mechanism कि अगर आपने ये प्रॉपर्टी 31st मार्च तक, what I'm saying that if new property is not purchased till टाइम अंडर सेक्शन 139(1), तो अगर आपने इससे पहले खरीद ली फिर तो कोई इश्यू नहीं है, लेकिन अगर इस डेट तक नहीं खरीदी है, देन वी हैव अ स्पेशल अकाउंट नोन एज कैपिटल गेन अकाउंट स्कीम अकाउंट. You can open any specialized CGAS account with any nationalized bank, and that account will serve as a security account so that the amount that you are willing to invest for the house can be deposited in this account. तो जितने का आपको मकान खरीदना है टेंटेटिवली, या जिस पैसे को आपको लगता है कि आपने सेक्शन 54 के एग्जम्पशन में क्लेम करना है, उस अमाउंट को आप CGAS के अकाउंट पर डिपॉजिट करा दीजिए. और जो अमाउंट यहाँ डिपॉजिट कराया, so the amount deposited in capital gain account scheme before or till 31st July 2022 in the special case, that is time limit under section 139, this will also be eligible, this amount will also become eligible for exemption under section 54, for exemption under section 54. So here either the exemption will be against section 54 or amount which has been deposited in capital gain account scheme. And this is to be noted that in both the cases, whether the new house is purchased, or whether the amount is deposited in CGAS, in both the cases it has to be done till 31st July 22 or time limit अंडर सेक्शन 139(1). यानी कि जो 139(1) की टाइम लिमिट है, या तो उस डेट से पहले आप नया घर खरीद लीजिए, और अगर नया घर नहीं खरीद पा रहे हैं तो अमाउंट को CGAS में जमा करा दीजिए. और अगर आपने दोनों काम नहीं किए तो ये जो आपके पास एक्स्ट्रा टाइम लिमिट थी अगले 2 साल की 3 साल की, वो इनफेक्टिव हो जाएंगी. So whatever action has to be performed till the time limit section 139(1), and this is very important. Okay, and now with all this, you also have to remember that you have to use the capital gain account scheme balance till 3 years. That is the period of 1st March 2020-25, as was the case here, is the maximum time limit to use the capital gain account scheme balance. और अगर ये अनयूटिलाइज रहा, अगर ये बैलेंस अनयूटिलाइज रहेगा, तो आफ्टर 3 years या आफ्टर दिस डेट they will be taxed as long-term capital gains. They will be taxed as long-term capital gains. Also, जो आपने नया घर परचेज किया है, न्यू हाउस परचेज्ड, शुड नॉट बी सोल्ड, उसको आपने शुड नॉट बी सोल्ड फॉर नेक्स्ट 2 years एटलीस्ट, अगले 2 साल तक आप उस मकान को बेचेंगे नहीं। और अगर आपने उस मकान को अगले 2 साल में बेच दिया, दैट इज इफ सोल्ड, देन एग्जेम्पशन विल बी विड्रॉन। तो जितनी आपने एग्जेम्पशन क्लेम करी, अगर आपने मकान 25 लाख का खरीदा और आपने एग्जेम्पशन सिर्फ 20 लाख रुपए क्लेम करी, तो 20 लाख की एग्जेम्पशन विड्रॉ हो जाएगी। और अगर मकान 15 लाख का लिया था और पूरा क्लेम कर लिया था, तो पूरी की पूरी एग्जेम्पशन विड्रॉ हो जाएगी। सो इट इज नॉट हाउ मच द हाउस वॉज परचेज्ड और नॉट हाउ मच द हाउस हैज बीन सोल्ड फॉर नाउ, it is how much exemption was claimed, that is on what amount you have availed the tax benefits, that exemption will be withdrawn। आप उस exemption को वापस कर लोगे और वो अमाउंट दोबारा से टैक्सेबल हो जाएगी इन द ईयर ऑफ सच सेल, इन द ईयर ऑफ सच ट्रांसफर। तो मकान 2 साल तक बेचोगे नहीं, 2 साल तक बेचा तो अगर मैं दोबारा बोलता हूँ, या तो आपने मकान खरीदा नहीं जुलाई तक और सीजीएस में जमा करा दिया, तो अगर आपने उसे सीजीएस में जमा करा दिया तो आपके पास उसको यूज़ करने के 3 साल तक का टाइम है। और अगर आपने मकान खरीद लिया तो उस मकान को अगले 2 साल तक बेचेंगे नहीं, अगर आपने 2 साल से पहले बेच दिया तो भी वो एग्जाम्पशन विड्रॉ हो जाएगी। तो दोनों केसेस में एग्जाम्पशन विड्रॉ हो जाएगी। इट इज ओनली अबाउट which year it will be taxed, that depends upon whether it was the CGAS case or the house case। And there is a third and last case to this, that जो amount आपने CGS में जमा कराई थी, this amount can be withdrawn before the time limits to purchase the house। तो आप उस मकान को इस अमाउंट को विड्रॉ करके घर खरीद सकते हैं और वो इंफॉर्मेशन आपको नेशनल बैंक को देगी। अगर उसमें कोई डिफॉल्ट होगा तो नेशनल बैंक डिपार्टमेंट को रिपोर्ट कर देगा और विड्रॉ करने के 2 महीने के अंदर अंदर वो अमाउंट यूज होनी चाहिए। तो दैट शुड बी यूज्ड विद इन 2 months। और अगर आपने उसको 2 महीने के अंदर, यानी कि अमाउंट विड्रॉ तो कर ली कैपिटल गेन अकाउंट स्कीम से, लेकिन उसे 2 महीने के अंदर यूटिलाइज नहीं करी, तो वो फिर दोबारा से शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन बन जाएगी उस डेट पर जहां ये 2 months का पीरियड एंड होता है। तो उस प्रीवियस ईयर की टैक्सेबल इनकम बन जाएगी। So, subject to these conditions, you can always claim exemption under Section 54, which is, I should say, in most of the cases, those who are selling residential houses are much in the willing position, and they are definitely using one of the exemptions of Section 54. And if somehow they are not they are not able to use Section 54 exemption, then they shift to the easier part, that is Section 54 EC, and that we will be now taking up in the next section, because this session is too close now. Thank you very much.